With no hesitation, I'd like to introduce Paul Hahn, the Harbor Master of Newburyport.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for inviting me here tonight. I think we had a good ceremony, so they invited me here to talk about what I do. I know some people know me, some people don't. I look around, I know some of you guys. A lot of people think we just ride around a boat and wave to people all day. Sit in a beautiful little office over there, but you know. So basically what I'm going to do real quick is I did a quick little slideshow presentation. At any time, interject, ask questions. You know, I'm sure some people know what I do, some people don't. But it's a busy harbor. I love my job. Been at it for a long time, so I'll kind of go through what I do. Anytime, just pop it in and ask questions. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a Newburyport resident. I've been here since first grade. I'm married. I got 2 boys. I started young, so I was actually 22 when I had my first son. I'm 45 now. My oldest son goes to Quinnipiac. He's doing supply chain management, and then my other son actually wants to follow my footsteps and wants to become a harbor master. I got a professional captain's license. I've been a master 100-ton captain, so I've actually, before I took this job, I also ran charters. So I grew up with my father, 8 years old, I'm tuna fishing out here. Started on the water at a young age, so I figured, you know, I've always loved the water. That's kind of where it started. I can thank my dad for that. Then I went and got my captain's license. So I've been 13 years full-time I've been here. It's hard to believe. So I remember everybody when I first got the job, they were like, I'm expecting a guy with a big white beard to be the harbor master. You look too young. We talked about that. And I've been affiliated with it for 22 years. So I've been, I was here as an assistant for a while, and then I went through the police academy at 22, and then I got on the job in Merrimack, Mass. I was a police officer for 14 years. A little bit about me. The department, real quick, a lot of people, we have 40 employees. A lot of people think I'm the only full-time guy. All of my employees are part-time, seasonal. Perfect. They come and go, like right now, we're actually still have the docks in down in Cashman Park, so we'll be taking those out Tuesday, so they'll come back to help me. I have supervisors, Mary Ann, who works in the office, who does all the paperwork and answers the questions. We run a pump out boat. We have dock hands on the central waterfront docks, also up at Cashman Park. And then Plum Island, I pretty much run the parking lot down there and the beaches. This is our fleet. So we have a 25 safe boat that we run right now that came from the Coast Guard. I got that through a grant. We also have a 25 North Coast pump out boat, and then I have a 25 North Coast backup boat. And then coming soon, I got a port security grant for almost $300,000 to get that boat that you see right there in the picture. Highly competitive. A lot of the other harbor masters get mad at me because I beat the city of Newburyport back. So that was a good score. That should be showing up any time now. We're just waiting for the engine, but we'll have it in the spring for this year. So this is kind of the running joke. They call this the old Harbor Master Shack. And basically, when I first started, that's what I used to work out of. The monument, as you can see, was actually on the other side of the building. And when we designed the new building, which I'll get to next, we thought it'd be a good idea to have the monument right in line with the Maritime Museum. And we did it all up, and it looks beautiful. But that was my old office. It was a running joke because we had no bathroom, no facilities, nothing. That was actually when I was interviewing for the job. That was one of the questions that the mayor asked me, what are your visions? I says, a new building. And of course, here it is. They made fun of me, they called it the Taj Mahal. Because it became so big, you know, there was kind of the running joke. So we built that in 2017. We got $448,000 from the grant, from the boating infrastructure grant. And then $1 million from the Harbor Enterprise Fund, supported by boating fees. I think I have another slide where I talk about that. The good thing is my department is fully funded by the boaters' fees. So we don't take any money from the taxpayers. We're our own enterprise fund. So it's basically, I'm kind of running my own business. You know, I have to worry about the money we take in, the money that goes out. And it's weather dependent too. So sometimes it's really good, sometimes, you know, you have rainy weekends, so it slows down the business. Now we have in the new transient boaters facility, we have restrooms, showers, and laundry. We would get calls all the time from boaters saying, do you guys have facilities? You know, can we stay for a couple of days? No, we don't have anything. Okay, off they went. They didn't stop you. It's really important to the boaters that are traveling all over the world to have these facilities. We also added, part of the deal that we made with the city was there was no restrooms down here. But because we're an enterprise fund, it only paid for a portion of it, but we ended up also paying for the public restroom portion. If we're gonna build a building like this, we had to have public restrooms. This real quick is just a video I wanna show you. We do our own marketing, you know, for the docks, and this was a video put together. I think you guys will enjoy it. It kind of shows the museum and the whole overview. Those are the docks, those are the commercial boats. That's what we tie what it looks like in the summertime. The boating has quadrupled since COVID. I mean, it's just gotten so busy, everyone bought boats. David Keary was the designer of our building. His son is on Stranger Things, you know, Keary's. I was actually the Heather Lynn when that boat went down. I was actually up tuna fishing. Gives me goosebumps every time I talk about it. You can see how busy the docks get now. Yeah. It's non-stop. I mean, it's just, there's always something going on. We get boats that come from all over. They love it because they can tie up right here to the docks. They go right downtown Newport with all the restaurants and Asian bagels. I can't tell you, I met one of the boats you'll see was the owner of the Washington football team. He came in here and he said, this is one of the best ports I've ever been to. He's been all over. You guys have probably seen, I don't know how often you get on the boardwalk, the bigger boats that we can get in. Yes. That has been my goal, because that's a huge buzz for the city. Everybody wants to know, who are they? We're famous. Where did they come from? I sometimes start ruining it. I love being part of the Tall Ship events. We're going to keep these going. I picked this particular video because it kind of ties in with the museum. So we usually escort them in, take them out. We have the time to put the ties on some of them. Yeah, showing these guys a video really like, I don't want to steal it.
I just want a copy.
See if I can get through this here. All right, so another thing, obviously, Newburyport's birthplace was Coast Guard, and we're also a Coast Guard city. Two different things. So basically in 2011, we became the nation's 14th Coast Guard city, recognized by the Coast Guard and Congress as a Coast Guard city through support of local Coast Guard personnel and their programs. What that really means is not only are we the birthplace, but as a city, we do things for the Coast Guard when they come here, because they come from all over. So it's important for us to make sure we help them out. You know, we've done a bunch of different things for them. So that's kind of what being a Coast Guard city is. It's an extensive, it was a 2-year application process. It's very hard to get, and the city of Newburyport got it. We just got redesignated this summer. It lasts 5 years, and then you have to go for it again to make sure you're holding up to your end of the bargain to make sure that you get recertified. Some of the other responsibilities, I covered some, but patrolling the river and the harbor to enforce all the state and local laws, managing the boat launch facility at Cashman Park, maintaining Cashman Park Fish Pier. So we actually, with the boaters' fees, I think I have another slide coming up. When you get your fishing licenses, that's what pays to add these, the piers. So you manage the Plum Island Point, the parking lot, shellfish constable. So I'm also the shellfish constable. We actually have 8 people that dig for clams. All the clams they get have to go down to Plum Island, and they have to go through the plant to clean them to get them up to par so they go to the restaurants. Then the most important thing, ensure safety, the Merrimack Corporation, the Department of Public Health. So basically the docks, it's a marine, like I said, we kind of run our own business. It used to be first come, first served. People would just be able to pull up, and if there was space, they could stay there. When I put DOCWA, it's a reservation system into place. Basically what that does is they can go online, have reservations. People wanted to know when they came here that they had a place to tie up. We lost a lot of business doing that. That's why our revenue's probably increased 300% since we got into the system. And plus, obviously, the facility helped as well. Like I said in my meetings, if you build it, they will come. And we, like I said, now we accommodate vessels up to 200 feet. This year alone, we did over 2,500 boats on the docks. With Dockwood too, it keeps track of all the analytics. How long they stay, how long we've been here. We actually held up to a 5-star rating. So after they leave, they said, how was your stay? And we 5 stars. So they just, with the dock hands and the reservations, we have to keep that 5-star rating. The city docks is 1,200 feet of dock space out front. We have 5 moorings. Some people want to be on a mooring. We take care of them all. We put them in, we take them out. Those are my assistants there. We maintain them. These are some of the visiting vessels. Like I said, we have yachts up to 180 feet that come here, and they love it. They keep coming back.
Well, I'll just add that we started a program this summer with your help. When these large ships come in that are 100 or 120 feet or more, our store puts together a little package of tchotchkes, a welcome to Newburyport, come over and see the museum.
Yeah.
And those big ships, they really have loved it. Yeah, so it added a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's big. It's a big draw. Because not only do you have them coming here and spending money, and we've actually, Mary Ann has driven them to the grocery store to load up on their groceries and to fill up their boats. But it's when people know there's a big boat here, there's always a buzz around it. People come to the city to see the boat. And what do they do when they come here? Going downtown, spending money. So like I said before, our annual budget's about $500,000, funded by the enterprise fund, taking $0 from the general fund. Like I said before, we're self-sustained. Our bread and butter are our waterway and mooring permits. Every boat in Newburyport has to get a waterway permit. And that's $5 a foot. They register with us. We have all their information. They get a permit, and that allows them to tie up here, to stay at the marinas. That also includes the pump-out program, which I'll talk about. We also have mooring fees as well. So there's not as many moorings in Newburyport. It's mostly marinas. Other duties, training with the Coast Guard, environmental police, and other public safety agencies, police, fire. We train a lot. You never know what type of situation you're going to get. You know, some of you know the season I've had this year, and not to get into the fatalities and all that, but it's been a kind of a tragic year, a very busy year for my department. But you never know what you're going to get, so you have to constantly train. And you have to work with all the other agencies to work together. Because along with the fatalities, we also had a lot of good saves. You know, a lot of really good rescues. Kayaking, I'll talk about that on another slide. Boater safety classes. I'm all about education. A lot of people, perfect example, you can go and drive a boat, you don't need a license. Which is crazy. You can hop on a boat and go. In Massachusetts, you do not need a boating license. Some of the other events we do, obviously we help oversee Yankee Homecoming, Riverfest, Touch a Boat. We have events where we tie up all the Coast Guard, our boat, environmental police come down, and basically they can go on, the kids can go on the boats, look at them, touch them. It's a good little event, the kids like it. Cashman Park Boat Ramp. It is the busiest launch in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it just actually, yesterday, it just got repaved. We have a land management agreement with the state, so they paid for it. They gave us a boat, $280,000, repaved it. And there's a launch fee of $15. You can get a season pass for $150. There was over 3,000 launches there this year. Like I said before, the boating is just so much different than it was even 5 years ago. Mondays are like Saturdays. It's just weather dependent. The fish pier, that was the fish pier I was talking about down at Cashman Park. Now you have to get a saltwater fishing license. So the good thing is that money goes towards access, so people have places to go and fish. Now they can actually go out on the fish pier, handicap accessible. Now they can go out there and fish right off the pier. We also do a youth fishing clinic with the state. A bunch of kids come down, we teach them how to fish, how to cast, identify the fish. We like to start them young. That's how I grew up. I mean, some of the best memories I have is being on the boat with my father, tuna fishing. So this is going to be kind of crazy when I see how I play this one out. So we have a pump-out program, Clean Vessel Act. We basically, anytime with people when they get their waterway permits, we go to their boats and we pump out their septic tanks. Pump-out boats available per request, Fridays and Saturdays. We basically want to do the weekends. Program has pumped out thousands of gallons of raw sewage from vessels that normally would have been released in a Newburyport waterway. And that's when I get into, this kind of irks me because it's 30, 40 gallons. We also get paid 75% through the Clean Vessel Act, so that's paid for by the state. And then you roll into this, which I'm sure you guys are all aware of. Water quality in the Merrimack River. So this is where you look at Lowell, Manchester, 222 million gallons of CSOs. So here I am pumping out 40 gallons off a boat, and you have, but the way that they preach it is dilution is the solution to pollution. They figure by the time the amount of waste that they're putting into the water, it dilutes. I'm not a huge fan of it. That's where we're at, so that's what we're working on now. We're working with the Merrimack River Watershed Council and the Department of Health. Because we can't stop it right now, the most important thing to do is identify, we're going to have these permanent signs made with a Q code, so you can scan on this, so everybody will know when there is a CSO activation. You can download it right on your phone. Because then you generally don't want to go in the water for 48 hours while it cycles through.
Are there plans to enlarge the facilities at the moment?
That's the plan, but they're talking, that's billions.
Well, we did it back in the service.
Yep.
That's what we put it in.
So that's the fight,
Yeah.
but until that happens, we have to manage it. And I'm fully, I'm working with these guys, because, we're doing everything we can in Newburyport, we did our wastewater treatment plant, but we're getting all the flow. The dredging, I'm sure you guys are aware, we've been doing this, when I first started in 2010, they dredged. Now they're doing it again. They're running 24 hours. They're dredging 226,000 cubic yards of material from the 9-foot channel, which they did not do last time, and the 15-foot channel. If you can see on here, the 9-foot channel runs right up to about the edge of where, this is the jetties down in Salisbury. 9-foot channel is 9 feet in depth at low tide. Then they're doing the 15-foot channel that goes out the mouth in between the jetties.
Is 15-foot channel, can you see it?
Yeah, the 15 channel runs, if you look, right, this is the 15-foot channel.
Oh, okay.
And that actually runs all the way towards the MR marker, the Merrimack River, and it runs to the south side of the jetties. And all that sand is being put back in the beach. So they started October 2nd, and they're scheduled to be completed by the 31st. So that was,
Share the sand?
what's that?
Do you have to share the sand?
The city of Newburyport got most of it, yeah, it's on Reservation Terrace. On the
Who pays for that?
Army Corps. Yep, it's grant money. We actually, from the Harbor Enterprise Fund, there's a small section outside the federal channel. I don't know how many people, if there's any boaters here, but on the Salisbury side of the jetties is a real shallow spot, but they don't dredge there because it's out of the federal channel. And I thought it was crazy to not have that dredge while they were here. So I went through and did all my own permitting and got them to do it so it was shovel ready when they got here. So it's going to be about $50,000 that we're paying for out of the enterprise fund to clean that area out. And I just went to Salisbury and said, hey, you guys use this as well. I want half. So and we got a grant for $40,000 to do the permitting. So it worked out well. So we're getting it all done for the cost of the city of Newburyport, about $25,000. So, you guys have any more questions on the dredging? It's kind of a big deal. I don't know if you guys have seen the big boat that came in. It's about 200 feet, 70 feet wide. It's a big one.
Can we all get rides out there tomorrow?
Let's go.
What's the effect of the shellfish, gravel and stuff, dredging?
For the shellfish, well, the shellfish are generally in the flats, they're not really in the federal channel. I think I had a question earlier about sturgeon.
Yeah, I don't know if most people know, but there's a big population of sturgeon that winter on the bottom of the river just below the Lowell Dam. And then there's a population of sturgeon, a few dozen, that winter on the bottom of the river here just north of the flats,
Yes.
the Jumping Flats.
So a big part of doing this now is because of the piping plovers. So you have to do the permitting and the sturgeon. So the sturgeon, through studies, we actually have the Atlantic sturgeon and we have the short-nosed sturgeon. The short-nosed stay here, but this time of year they go upriver. The Atlantic leave. And then through studies and how we're able to get away with doing it is sturgeons don't like the noise. So as soon as they start to hear that, they scurry. That's how you have to get the permit. So if you look down the bottom right, that was me going out fishing the other day. So we do vessel safety checks. It's a courtesy check. We do that with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We do enforcement, but this gives people a chance to, if they don't know, it's the most important thing for me is to make sure they have the stuff. We don't want to be pulling people over going, we want to bust your chops, I want to write you a ticket. We want you to have this stuff when something happens. When you know what hits the fan, you want to have that fire extinguisher, you want to have the life jackets. Life jackets, life jackets, life jackets. They save lives. I can't talk about that enough. So we do that. We have a courtesy check. They can come down to Cashford Park early in the season. We try to get it as the season's just starting. And we'll completely, myself and the Coast Guard will go through and say, hey, you need this stuff. Then once you complete it, they get the vessel safety check sticker. And then that way there, it's a good way to warm up with the boaters, to let them know we're here to help. You know, at the end of the day, we do enforce, but we're there to help, number one. Another thing we have here is very, very important. If found, contact. These stickers are what go on canoes and kayaks because they're not registered. If we happen to find a canoe or a kayak, we have to treat it as a missing person if it's unmanned, which could mean thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of helicopters searching, tying up assets. So it's very important, just from this little sticker, we give them out in the office. If you have a canoe or kayak, you put that on there, because if somebody finds that, we get it during the moon tides, the high tides, they'll drift out in the basin, they'll just end up in the water. We find it, we don't know if somebody fell off it.
Is the office open now?
Yes.
Might be a nice Christmas present.
There we go. So it's very important to have these, because as soon as we get those, have the contact information, we can call them, hey, we found your kayak, are you okay, everybody accounted for, everything's good. I think eventually, it's going through legislature now, they're gonna make you register through the environmental police, canoes and kayaks, so you actually have the numbers, which I'm a fan of. Anybody recognize those penguins? I can't tell you how many calls I get. Tell everybody we're all in trouble. Yeah. Middle of July, penguins are out there on the iceberg. It's amazing. So I'd like to bring this slide up because obviously kayaking has gone through the roof. It's so busy now, it's a very popular sport. We had a lot of incidents at first. So we wanted to help with kayak safety. So one of the things that we did, Ron Thurlow, the Harbor Commission, actually teaches a class. We have great paddle areas, not good areas. Technically from Carr Island to right out front here right in front of the Coast Guard station, it's a small craft, you're not supposed to have small crafts in there. You're not supposed to be paddleboarding because the current's too strong. I can't tell you how many people we've rescued out of the docks here. They'll be coming along the boardwalk with a 9-knot current. Next thing you know, they're getting sucked out of the docks, and we have to rescue them. So that's what we try to educate people. We try to let them know.
Okay, you said Carr Island to these docks.
Carr Island to the icebreaker, which is if you guys are aware of the icebreaker right across from the Coast Guard station, right there.
Where's Carr Island?
Carr Island is up, so if you have Carr Island, Ram Island, it's right up across from Yankee Marina.
Yep,
So up almost North End Boat Club, those are the islands up there.
it's on the other side.
Just
Yeah.
below the chamber.
Yep, so like some of the best places to go, you got the Joppa launch down here, so go in Joppa Park.
Yeah.
That's a good spot.
Yeah.
We tell them to go back river by High Rock, stuff like that, because it gets really hairy in here.
Yeah.
Things happen quick. People will go out, a beautiful day, thunderstorm comes in, fog, so we're just trying to educate, keep people safe, tell them the safe areas. Just because we had a lot of instances, so we had to sit down and say, what can we do to help? What can we do to prevent this?
Paul, even by High Rock, they go fast, so when you're kayaking, they can easily swamp you. Is that something you patrol there?
Yeah, you're not supposed to go fast back there, because anytime there's a bend or something you can't see, it's a no-wake area back there. So we enforce back there quite a bit.
Yeah, we see it at DMIC, that it's all like cut-throughs from the Plum Island River.
Yep.
Cutting through so that they don't have to go to the channel.
Right.
So the kayak is cut.
Yeah, people, sometimes on a beautiful day, they don't realize it because it's not that windy, but you come off a big moon tide when that current's really going. I see it, I'll be in my office and I can see them paddling by, they're going down the boardwalk, they're looking, and then they have a marina that comes out. Next thing you know, they're into it. And then they're getting under the docks, so we have throw rings at all our docks and stuff like that, but you just try to prevent it. Try to educate people. That's what we try to do. Just kind of getting near the end here, so future projects, we have the bulkhead repair. If you look out right in front of my office over by the fish pier, you can see where they put this, they basically put sheet piles out in front of the old ones to build it. Now they're doing the big park, I don't know if you guys have heard the plans of the park they plan on building out here. We've already secured 2.25 million, 1.3 million already secured to finish the bulkhead out front. It's a big park, they want to do this big park, there's going to be a whole park area down here. I thought you can't do the park without doing the bulkhead. There we go. That's kind of a rough breakdown of what we do. I think I covered a lot of stuff. I don't know, I'm sure you guys have some questions.
Are you part of the city, or are you related part of the police department, or
It's a good question.
where do you kind of fit in
Yeah, so,
administratively, I guess?
so I work for the city full-time.
Okay.
I'm a department head. So basically, we're a union. So basically I work for, so it's like you have like the police chief, the fire chief, we all work together, but I don't work for them. Some other communities, they work under the police department. Me, myself, the way that it works here in the city, because I'm more of a harbor manager. I mean, I can't tell you how much of the stuff I'm managing. But I work, I'm my own department head, and I work for the city, because some people actually work for the state. And my salary, everything I do is through the enterprise fund, all collected from the fees. So that's all paid for now.
Well, you have a bunch of assistants, like Dick and Cashman, does he work for you?
He works for me. Yep.
He's a character.
Have you met Paul?
No, but.
Dickie will give me a run for my money.
So what's gonna happen to the, former fireboat that's sitting in the parking lot?
So that's been totaled,
Yeah.
and the city just got money to purchase a new boat. We actually have a committee,
Well,
which
who's
I,
gonna buy it? Who's gonna take care of it?
the fire department.
Oh,
Fire department wants their own boat.
but they're gonna take the old boat?
The insurance is taking that.
Ah.
Yeah. So now it's just kind of sitting there. They had to wait for it to go through the whole process, do the investigation, you know. That was not a fun morning at 3 o'clock when I said, hey, just the flag is showing on the fire boat.
That was pretty funny.
My phone doesn't stop. I mean, my cell phone number's everywhere. I'm on call 24/7. I get calls at 1 in the morning. I mean, I'll be sitting in bed at 1 o'clock and report police. What do we got? Like, here we go. You know, so I'm always on the go because everybody knows me and I'm the guy that anything water related, call Paul. Call Paul. Even the Coast Guard. I have a great relationship with them. Some of these guys, they do not know the water like I know the water. You know, some of these guys, their training is mostly offshore. Excellent group of guys, very professional, but they don't know the nooks and crannies of this area like I do. So they always look at me for help. And I talk to them every other day, you know.
What is your area that you have to cover? How far upriver does the harbor
So
consist of?
upriver goes up to Larry's Marina, because you got Mosley Pines. That's still considered Newburyport, so it goes way up, so you go past Lowell's Boat Shop.
Yes.
Larry's Marina is the one that Dan Healy just bought, and that he's redoing, so it goes right up to about there, because it basically is a line that goes right down the middle.
Is that the Powwow River or before that?
It's right about at the Powwow River, because that's about where it comes out by the Artichoke, by Mars.
What is the water depth up in that area?
15 feet.
Really, that deep?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
The channel's pretty deep, like even right out front here in front of my office, 22 feet, people tell. Like on the central waterfront, it's deep.
When we say water depth, we're talking low tide?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's so, good question. So like the 9-foot channel, and they call it the 15-foot channel, low tide. We have anywhere from 8 to 10-foot tide changes roughly, and it gets up to 10 knots.
So when we're bringing in a tall ship and you tell me my draw is only a 13.5, why is that?
You have to give it, because you have to give it a little bit of wiggle room. You know, you can't,
Now I have 22.
now, well, that's, you're gonna have the 9-foot channel. But if you have the 9-foot channel, you add 8 feet, we're probably gonna gain a couple of feet. So that's a good question, because we may be able to get some of these bigger boats in once we're done with the surveys. Because now the Army Corps has to come and survey to make sure that H&L dredging gets it to where it needs to be.
That would be great.
I'll tell you, I think it was,
I think 14 and 15 is my sweet spot.
yeah, we might be able to do that. Someone mentioned the Eagle.
Oh, yeah, from New England?
Yeah. So that was another big thing. So not only, I mean, getting the dredge and getting the sand to protect the city, you know, Plum Island it's a huge project, and it was, I started, we've been working for this since 2010. There's only so much money to go around, you know. They picked us this year, and like I said, I got both channels done, because we had to break it down into 2 sections to make sure we had enough money. But luckily, they did it all the way up in front of the Coast Guard station. They didn't do that in the last round in 2010.
Getting an eagle would be fabulous.
Getting what?
Getting an eagle up here would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Did Salisbury give you any hassle about paying half of the dredging?
They agreed.
They saw the.
Yep, they agreed, and it's actually, where the small dredge area was actually on the Salisbury side. It was on the northern tip. So if anybody, I don't know if anyone hit boats, if you know, it's a very shallow spot that shows up to 4 feet, and when it gets rough, people by common knowledge like to hug the south side. I'm sorry, the north side, and then go out. But when you hit that shoal spot, so if you got 4 feet, and you're going up and you're coming down on a wave, I can't tell you how many people hit the bottom. So we're dredging that. But technically, it was out of the federal channel. So I think if you look back on one of the slides, where you can see the channel, that's just the federal channel. Anything out of that, oh wait, that's the paddle. So you see how they got the lines here? They will not touch anything outside of that. The Army Corps, that's all they care about, the federal navigable channel. So if you look over here, you just miss it. See how they start to miss it? Right there is where the shoal spot is. So I just said, as the harbor master, I can't not have it, because the biggest cost is getting all this equipment here. Once it's here, you know. And I've worked with the dredge. I've helped them out. You know, I've let them tie up to our docks. You know, you work with them, and it's how you get things done.
Come and get food at our restaurants.
You know.
I think we do something about the jetting that causes that horrible, is it gyre that doesn't happen?
So that's the next, so yes, when we had the ribbon cutting for this, not only is it important to get this dredge and do it, you have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Years ago, when I was growing up as a kid, every 2 years, maintenance dredge, and they can do the hopper dredge. They got 2.5 miles of pipeline. Think about that.
This dredger?
2.5 miles of pipeline
Wow.
running, so they ran a pipe all the way from here, all the way down to Plum Island.
Wow.
2.5 miles.
But the jetty is gonna stay the way it is?
So, back to your question, so there was a study, because they said that the water, sometimes they may have to take out a portion of it, because they thought that it flowed better.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's where the engineers come into play.
Another question. One of my favorite things in the summer is the little houseboat at Cashman.
Yes. He's still in, by the way.
I just saw him in the docks.
Yep.
Now, that's just him? Like, he just comes out and waters up there and drops it off and...
It's my old soccer coach.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things.
Happiest guy, he loves his spot, he just wants to be able to cruise. I mean, the boat's all sort of, we had a big issue, I don't know how much you followed it, with the floating homes.
Yeah.
That was a nightmare. They ended up in Salisbury.
Were they giving you these?
Yeah, so they ended up going away because it was technically not navigable and
Yeah.
that all, I mean, I learned more about them than I ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
Because it became, at the time, the mayor didn't want it to become a problem because Seattle, you look at all these places where they have all these people on floating, they don't want the city of Newburyport to turn into a floating home. Because it was different, because they can't navigate, a vessel has to be able to make its own way. So these were floating homes, they were just built on docks. So that was another issue I had to deal with.
Interesting question.
What about the gentleman that was going to do the tours up to Haverhill? That boat that...
So, that's coming back to life.
It is.
Yep. Harbor Tours, Aziz,
Oh,
here is gonna do it.
Oh, wow.
He had the correct boat. I don't know if you guys saw the other boat that was here that broke free from down there, tied it up on my docks, and he abandoned it. I had to deal with it. It was like Old Maid being passed around, and Sullivan was like, yeah, it's all yours, you can deal with it. But it was too big of a boat to be doing river, like the idea was good, because I've had a bunch of meetings, they wanna bring tourism and bring boating to Haverhill. You know, kind of go up that way and make it, you wanna make it like Newburyport.
Maybe they'll keep it on afterward.
Yep. So then another thing that they did was taking another thought that we had, I mean, down at the state reservation, this close to 1 million campers or something that goes, it's a huge park, so we wanted to transient and have a taxi
Oh, great idea.
that went back and forth. They have all these people down there, because the guys are going out fishing, what are the wives doing? Up on a boat, take them to Newburyport, go spend money. Way in the back.
Thank you. So I moved to Plum Island 4 years ago, and I live on the basin, and I enjoy swimming in my private cove beach for 2 years. And then everything changed. So my cove is now pretty disgusting. It looks horrible, and it's inundated with the sludge, or whatever we want to call it. So what do you really think is going to happen with this situation?
So when you're saying sludge, because we actually have, I get a lot of calls on that, that looks like sludge, which is actually sea foam, and we've tested it. So I don't know if you've seen all the sea foam pieces. So if you basically went into the clam plant right now, and you look on top of the water, they're purifying the clams. It's got like the sea foam, the bubbly, but it looks brown and nasty and sludgy.
Right.
A lot of people confuse that as like, people seem to think that it's coming from the CSOs.
Yeah.
We've tested that. We just literally tested it because they were taking the docks out up at Newburyport Marina and they saw the sludge. We sent the health department out there, took a bunch of samples of it, and it came back negative.
So how does the homeowner on Plum Island know what is really what?
So what I would do is that anytime you get something like that, call, we can always test it.
Okay.
But what we're trying to do now is, like I said, with this Q code, at least this way here, you will know when there's CSOs and the water's not safe. So another thing I can tell you is throughout the season, we test the water once a week. And in the basin is one of the areas. So we start from Joppa, we go in the basin, we do by the sandbar and 55th because they're technically bathing beaches.
Right.
So every Wednesday, we send them out, we take samples, we take, we see what the water temperature is, we do it at all different tides, and then we send it out every week because we're allowing people to swim on the ocean side. You technically can't even swim in the river. You can only go up to waist high because, like if you notice over in Salisbury, you can't, because the current's too strong. We've had too many people get swept off that, but on the ocean side, you have undertows, and stuff like that, and so basically you can go in the ocean, but you can't go in the river. So that's kind of the process we're at now.
So where does the basin fit into what you're saying, the ocean and the river? How do you define the basin?
So the basin, perfect example down there, we used to have mooring permits down there. But because of riparian rights and riparian law, you actually own up to the mean low water.
Right.
So they battled the city a little bit and they kind of said, well, you own the property. So we don't even do mooring permits in there, everybody kind of owns their own. But we still test in the basin. If at some point you think that you see sludge and not sea foam, because I know, I see it all the time, and it really is the enzymes and everything, the water breaking down that makes that foam.
Okay.
And it does look sludgy, and people do think that it's the CSOs and it's the sewage, but it's really not. That particular part of it is not.
Like Thanksgiving week, there was rain upriver, these signs were out. We had these signs posted.
Yep, so there was a CSO, so what we're trying to
So
eliminate.
they'll post, in other words, they'll post it fast.
Yeah, so, and this is all run by the health department, but I try to help them out as much as possible. They want to have it so that they don't have to put the sign up for 48 hours, take it down, put it up, take it down. They want to be able to have it that you can go on your phone. Once you scan that Q card and say, okay, the water's not good for 48 hours.
You can actually sign, if you go to Lowell, the city website, sign up for alerts so that I get them.
Yeah, I get the
Doing it,
emails all the
they
time.
send an email that says, we're doing it now.
So generally, anytime it's rain, give it 48 hours. Or wait for an incoming tide.
Well, if you're testing weekly, where is that data stored? Is it?
On the city website,
It is,
yep, through the public health department.
so everyone can see it.
Yep. And in the 13 years I've been doing it, we've only failed once.
Wow.
So, I mean, and I hate to even say this because I'm not a fan of that, but the water is actually gotten cleaner. It's hard to believe, and I hate to say it because they just opened up the shell fishing for the first time 6 years ago in 80 years. So they can actually dig clams here now. As gross as that is and as much as coming down, it got to a point that you can actually dig clams in Newburyport now. But everything has to go to the purification plant. And then they run it through. And just back to the other question, that was brought to my attention about that, you know, the sea foam. And I talked to the marine biologist who works out of the plant. He is the guru of, you know, any type of stuff in the water. He said that that's sea foam. Because people call it, it does look gross. It gets brown and it's,
Yeah, it does. I mean, I look out my kitchen window and it's like, oh my God, what am I doing here?
because I just approved that, so after that, I think it was even last week, it just recently came up. Incoming tide, right? So all the water's coming from the ocean.
Yep.
We had all of that sea foam coming in, and but what happens to it? It floats around, you know, it gets the muck when everything's stirred up, it touches the mud on the ground, and then it just kind of collects stuff, and then it goes from being white to this nasty brown. It doesn't look good.
Right, but then the sun comes out, the stars come out, and everything's beautiful.
Yep. Well, it's like me when I'm going out fishing, you know, you go out at a low tide, you're looking behind the boat, and stirring up all this brown, nasty water.
Right.
Incoming tide, nice tide, you look back, it's beautiful, it's clean, it's fresh.
So last winter, a harp seal, which was an interesting seal, hauled out at Cashman.
Yep.
And I called up Nellie and the rescue people, and she came out and she said, every fish that they find or that these seals eat is riddled with worms. All the fish in the river. Just thought I could pass it out to you.
I run charter boats too, I'm a charter boat captain, so we fish sometimes, and
Fish in the river?
some of the stripers have sea lice on the outside, that's when they come from the ocean, that's how you can tell.
It's worms. They
Yeah.
call it vermicelli.
Yeah, generally the worms that I see are caught,
Cod,
and
yeah.
those are out in the ocean,
Right.
those are full of worms.
You would see those in blues too.
And what?
Blues, probably.
Yeah.
Bluefish.
Try them a lot of fishing.
Yeah, the seals were up in front of my office today. I don't know if you guys remember, a couple of years ago, we actually had a dolphin in the river. I did not believe it, and it was here for a week. We had a humpback whale come in. Most incredible thing I've ever seen. I went out there and I'm sitting off the sandbar, and there's a 40-foot humpback whale. Moving along.
Apparently it was not.
I'm like, I gotta see this. I'm like, there's no way.
Dynamic river.
Paul, the city got a grant to set up a monitoring system like the Charles River Water Basin.
Yep.
What's the status of that? They were gonna put, you know, monitors and buoys and.
Yeah, I haven't heard, but I can tell you, I've done surveys before,
Yeah.
and they did with paddles up underneath the Hines Bridge, chain bridge. That's the strongest current in the river right there.
Yeah.
And they were talking about getting, yeah, I haven't heard anything on where that stands. I wish they would do something with it.
Yeah, it would be real time.
Well, how about sharks?
Sharks! You want to talk about sharks? So, a couple times a year, you'll have a great white. The great whites will come by. I mean, the sharks come off the beach. They eat the seals. They don't generally come in the river. No, they don't, they need the salt. So they really, at a high, what happens a lot, we have a lot of sunfish. I get calls all the time, because they got the big dorsal fins and move along, shark, shark, and we go over, and it's a sunfish kind of, at the high tide, yelling in. You know. But there's a lot of sharks around here. You know. Generally, not a lot of great whites. You get the basking sharks, which are huge. I mean, but they open up their mouths and they eat plankton. Have you ever seen a basking shark?
Oh, yeah, they're enormous.
Pretty, I mean, you look at one of them next to the boat, you can feel small.
There's a bunch of humpbacks around.
A lot of humpbacks, a lot of finbacks, a lot of minke whales.
So
So once you start the bulkhead project, what can we expect? Are there gonna be big machines out there pounding steel beams in front of the?
Yeah, so it's
bulkhead?
more like a fiberglass, and they basically take the sheet piles. You can kind of see how they did the old one. So they built, what they're doing, so that's steel. See how rotted that is? That's because of the electrolysis. So basically you take the fiberglass, you come out, I think it's 1.5 feet. You put the sheets in front of it, and then you fill it with concrete. So they leave what's there, because it would be too expensive to dig up the boardwalk and all that. So this is the plan for the springtime. To
Is
get
that
that
gonna be
done.
higher than the current bulkheads, because the water's getting real close on some of those high sides.
Yes, so we had to take an accommodation of the sea level rise. So like my building's jacked up off the ground. So when everything goes under, I'll be sitting up in my tower.
How long have you been at this,
How long have I been at?
your job?
Oh, my job? I've been doing it now for 22 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
I started off as an assistant. When I was younger, I was 22. I went right through the police academy. And then I was an assistant here with Ralph Steele. And I loved it. I loved the city. Like I said, I'm a Newburyport resident. I went to Newburyport High School. My kids went to the high school. I absolutely love the city. Love my job. Love my office. So I love being part of it. And I like to try to take my background, my talents, and pass it on and try to help everybody so they can enjoy it. I mean, it's a beautiful place. It's a busy place. It's grown substantially, and that's my goal is to, I take everything personal every time when something happens. It hits you. You want to know, what can I do to prevent that? You don't want to, because I'm the one that has to deal with the families and
What's your favorite time of year?
right now.
Everybody's going.
Summertime is just, it's different because I'm busy because I'm alone a lot. Like Mary Ann comes in once a week, but now is when you start going for grants, fixing boats. You kind of call myself like a farmer. You start to prep the crops to get it ready so everything grows for the summertime because you have to have everything lined up. Because once it's in the summer, you're surviving. Keeping the boats going, keeping the guys trained. Luckily, I have a good group of guys, and they're all, like I said, my guys are part-time. So my life revolves around their lives, and I have a lot of good guys, retired Coast Guard, Coasties, who have certifications up the wazoo, and we do a lot of training.
And then you have Dick.
And we go Dick.
He's a piece of work.
He's a legend.
Totally. And then he has a parrot
Yeah.
who sings opera in Italian.
If you guys ever get a chance, go down to Cashman Park and go walk into the shed. We have dog bones in there because we have all the people on the rail trail and all the dogs come flying over. And, he feeds them dog bones, but that shed, I don't think you can fit one more piece of equipment in there. He's like a yard sale guru.
So
Yeah.
Paul, we have to give you credit for all the grants that you've put in on Gotham City.
Yeah.
It's a great job. And
Yeah,
thank you for all these your trusts too. So, for all our events, you share your bathroom services.
I do whatever it takes to help everybody. So it makes the world go
You're a
round.
great neighbor.
Yeah. And like I said, I really, anything I can do to help you guys as far as the tall ships or getting them here, or, because it's such a big buzz for the city. People love it,
I know it.
And I do too. I love it. I love being busy.
We do too, we love it. We just want to make sure it's a win-win.
So one more question?
That lady right here.
What are your thoughts about tying some kind of safety requirement, instruction tied to boat registration, especially in light of with all of the increased number of boaters out there, and what I see is some bad behavior. And do you see any move toward that?
Yeah. So the number one thing is you have to. The boating licenses is what I want to get into. We want to get into play. So as far as, I don't know if I completely understood the question. So you have driving the boats and doing
some kind of instruction about the rules of the road out in the water.
Right. So take someone like me, I got a master 100-ton captain's license. They hold me more accountable because I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. Versus, so another big thing, another spin-off of that, Freedom Boats. You guys familiar with those? Huge problem for us. Because these people, they just get on a boat and go.
Aren't they steering with a placemat?
Yeah. Well, the number one question, they get on there and they go, where's the brake? That's when you know you're in trouble. So it's, and I'm not kidding. That's the thing with the river. Like in a car, you can kind of stop. This river, they don't realize there's two tides. You can be going out and outgoing tide, and there's an incoming tide. So that's why I really believe you have to have licensing, and, So we try to have, we host boating safety classes and teach them the basic rules of the road. That only teaches you so much. It's still hard to drive a boat on this river. It's not like a pond or a pontoon boat. You just drive and the wind changes, thunderstorms come through, you're in fog. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people go out in a boat they shouldn't be going out in off the ocean. They come back in the mouth and now they're 6-footers. And they go, what do we do? Let's just give it a whirl.
Even on a calm day, you can hit a roadway in the street.
You're going to constantly pay attention. It can be fun, it can be enjoyable, but it's very dangerous. It can be. And then, of course, what are people doing when they're boating? And it's legal. Just can't be intoxicated. You can drive by me in a boat. What's up, Paul? Hey, how you doing? Just can't be intoxicated. Crazy. There is implied consent. So if you're on the boat and you are drinking and we suspect something, you still have to go through, just like if you're driving a car. You have to take the breathalyzer. So basically what we do is if we suspect something, we detain them. We take control, we bring them back here, have the police come down, and then we give them 20 minutes to get their sea legs back. Then we put them through the test if need be. Not what we want to be doing all the time, but it does come across my desk. Sometimes you can't do it.
Okay, this is sort of a sober note. 2 days ago, a woman jumped off the bridge. And then I saw a police boat, then I saw a Coast Guard boat, and a helicopter. Do you know what happened?
Up here?
Up the chain bridge.
I do. Oh, the chain bridge? It was actually the
The
Whittier.
Whittier Bridge, sorry.
I can tell you the story real quick if you guys want.
Do you guys want to hear the story?
No.
I think it's a topic that probably doesn't need to be.
Okay.
It's up to you guys. I
Did
mean,
they call you in on it? That's what it's right. Oh,
yes.
yes.
Yes. We did it because.
Let's hear Paul. That's what you got.
I hope I covered everything. I'm actually, like I said, I'll hang out for a few minutes if anybody wants to ask me anything offline.